How about now? Can you hear me now? How about? So you must have expected. Okay. Very good. Nothing was happening, so I wondered if we had internet connection issues, but it's just my sound was off. Interestingly enough, I have no idea why. The setting was changed. All right, let's share screen and get started. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Attiko tena bhagavata janata passata arahata samma sambuddhena vyakatani va cha vattuni abhyakatani cha vattuni yani bhagavato savakehi tattatena eva dharetabani katancha abhyakatang bhagavata Sassato loko ti abhyakatang etang bhagavata asassato loko ti abhyakatang etang bhagavata antava loko ti abhyakatang etang bhagavata anantava loko ti abhyakatang etang bhagavata tang jivang tang sarirang ti abhyakatang etang bhagavata anyang jivang anyang sariranti abhyakatang etang bhagavata oti tatagato paramarana ti abhyakatang etang bhagavata nahoti tatagato paramarana ti abhyakatang etang bhagavata hoti cha na cha hoti tatagato paramarena ti abhyakatang etang bhagavata neva hoti nana hoti tatagato paramarana ti abhyakatang etang bhagavata evam ko abhyakatang bhagavata kasma chetang abhyakatang bhagavata nahetang atti samhitang na adi brahma charyakang na nibbadaya na viragaya na nirodaya na upasamaya na abhinyaya na sambuddhaya na nibbannaya samvattati tasma chetang abhyakatang bhagavata katancha vyakatang bhagavata edang dukkanti ko vyakatang etang bhagavata ayang dukkha samudayo ti ko vyakatang etang bhagavata ayang dukkha nirodho ti ko vyakatang etang bhagavata ayang dukkha nirodha gamini patipada ti ko vyakatang etang bhagavata evancha ko vyakatang bhagavata kasma chetang vyakatang bhagavata atta samhitang hetang addi brahmacharyakang nibbidaya viragaya nirodhaya upasamaya abhinyaya sambuddhya nibbanaya samvattati tasma chetang vyakatang bhagavata Tatrayang Bhagavata Vyakatang Tang Vyakatoti Dharetabang Yang Bhagavata Vyakatang Tang Vyakatoti Dharetabang Vuttang Hetang Bhagavata Ityang Bhikkave Maya Abhaya Katang Tang Avyakatoti Dhareta Yang Maya Vyakatang Tang Vyakatoti Dharetati. All right, English. Dhammas the Buddha declared and did not declare. There are these Dhammas that have been declared and ones that have not been declared by the Sublime One who knows and sees, the worthy and fully enlightened one, which should be remembered as such by the disciples. What has not been declared by the Sublime One? Whether the world is eternal or not eternal has not been declared by the Sublime One. Whether the world is finite or infinite has not been declared by the Sublime One. Whether the soul is identical with the body or the soul is different from the body has not been declared by the Sublime One. Whether the Tathagata exists after death or the Tathagata does not exist after death has not been declared by the Sublime One. Or whether the Tathagata does and does not exist after death, or that the Tathagata neither exists nor does not exist after death, has not been declared by the Sublime One. These are what have not been declared by the Sublime One. Why have these not been declared by the Sublime One? Because they are not beneficial for the holy life, nor are they beneficial for dispassion, for detachment from greed, nor for cessation of suffering, nor for tranquility, nor for the realization of truth, nor for the attainment of enlightenment, nor for the attainment of nibbana. Therefore, they are not declared by the Sublime One. What has been declared by the Sublime One? This is suffering has been declared by the Sublime One. This is the cause of suffering has been declared by the Sublime One. This is the end of suffering has been declared by the Sublime One. This is the way leading to the end of suffering has been declared by the Sublime One. These are what have been declared by the Sublime One. Why have these been declared by the Sublime One? Because they are beneficial for the holy life. They are beneficial for dispassion, detachment from greed, for cessation from suffering, for tranquility, for realization of the truth, for attainment of enlightenment, for the attainment of nibbana. Therefore, they are declared by the Sublime One. What has not been declared by the Sublime One should be remembered as not declared, and what has been declared by the Sublime One should be remembered as declared. This has been said by the Sublime One. Bhikkhus, remember what has not been declared by me as not declared, and what has been declared as declared. Ooh, boy, the sun is quite bright here. All right, friends. Well, it is Monday evening here in East Coast USA, and that means it is time for the Festival of Dhamma with the Maggasekha community, Dhammapalooza. We do a variety of different Dhamma-related activities here at Dhammapalooza. We did some chanting. Maybe later we'll do some meditation. Maybe we'll do some sutta reading, Q&A, Dhamma talks. Who knows? Because each Dhammapalooza is guided by the community. So it's up to you how this Dhammapalooza is going to go. So for the next couple minutes in the chat, if you have any questions you'd like me to answer, you can put it in the chat. If you have any Dhamma talk topics you'd like me to give a talk on, you can put that in the chat. If you have any topics you'd like for the community to discuss, you can put that in the chat. Or we could read suttas, whatever works. So we'll see what arises as we go along. Hello, Steve. Hello, Jayantha. Hello, Yankee. Yes, video disappeared because I turned it off so that I wouldn't be drowned out by the setting sun. All right. Rick has a question. Can you share a sutta and reflections on how to be at peace with living through times that are unpredictable or uncertain? I don't know that there's a specific sutta where the Buddha talks about this specific topic. One of the lines, obviously, I mean, other than talking about anicca, right, everything is unstable and dependable, etc. One of the lines from the suttas is, life is uncertain, but death is certain. So this is like a reflection given to kind of reflect on, to reflect that your life is uncertain. There's only one certainty in life, and that is that it will eventually end. So if you do your normal normal Noble Eightfold Path practices, and you develop your Satipatthana and Anapanasati, starting to see deep insights into the nature of anicca, then that's all you really need to know. Like that is the everything is uncertain because everything is anicca. So you reflect. Life is uncertain, death is certain. And so when the uncertain happens, it's not such a surprise. Anything can happen. It's uncertain. And so that teaches you to not have so many expectations. Expectations is kind of trying to control the future. But you don't know what the future is going to be because the future is uncertain until death, anyway. Everything between now and death is uncertain. So let go of what might be in the future. Don't try to control it or make it happen. And you'll be able to be okay with uncertainty. Because the important place to focus on is in the present and how you're engaging and dealing with what is arising. Trying to have expectations or figure out how you're going to react to something that hasn't arisen yet is not a very skillful or useful thing to do. No, how you die is uncertain. It's just certain that you're going to die. Yes, how you die is also uncertain. Hello, Gregory. Hello, Robert. Life is uncertain, death is certain. Robert, could you talk about the benefits of sense restraint on the path? Did you ask this at Dhammapalooza, at Monk Chat on Friday? I could have sworn we answered this, Ajahn Wade and I. Let's see. Hello, Perennial. So the benefits of sense restraint is training your mind, delayed gratification, training your mind in enduring pleasant and unpleasant experience without reacting to it, without attaching or being averse. helps to keep your mind focused on what you're observing, what your satipatthana practice or what's going on. It's a way of kind of training the mind, putting it on a good leash, so that the mind is just not left unrestrained to indulge and fall into fantasy and reflection and things like that at any time and at will. So there's lots of good reasons to practice some level of sense restraint, even as a layperson. I think that pretty much covers it. Unless if you have any, if you want me to cover something more specific, you can ask a clarifying question. But I think that pretty much covers what's in my mind now. Dao says, as I saw the issue of it recently, how the ownership actually works. If I remember, wasn't it in the suttas, there's next to nothing that is ours. As I saw people asking about it, and someone said along the lines of, if a friend's thing gets stolen and I take it back from the thief, is it stealing? It made me thought of ownership issues. Maybe even death is technically okay. That's an interesting question. That is quite an interesting question. I mean, I suppose technically it is stealing because it's the item is not yours, whether you're stealing it from somebody who stole it from your friend or not. Technically, it's stealing unless your friend gives you permission to do it. Then it's not stealing because the owner of the item is asking for you to do something, to take it. So then technically it wouldn't be stealing. So it depends on if the owner of the item is involved or not and gives permission. Hello, Perennial. Thank you. Do you find living with the monastics at Empty Cloud changes you in any noticeable ways? Curious about how good spiritual companions change us. Empty Cloud's a unique situation because, well, actually, I very rarely get to be around Bhante and Aya, but there's competing issues at Empty Cloud. There's, yes, being around other monastics, but then there's the food issues and the ancient house messing with my with my body and stuff like that, where it's like it's really mixed. It's my stay here is never overly positive. It's especially if I stay longer. My mind becomes more and more averse. So there's the positive aspect of being with a great community, because the community of people who come to Empty Cloud is great. The Thai people, Sri Lankan people, the Westerners, everybody who comes is really great. And I really like being with them. But the other conditions for living here kind of counteract a lot of the positivity. So it's a mixed bag when I'm at Empty Cloud. Perennial says, are there ever modifications made to the precepts? I want to start taking more posita days, but I usually don't eat until afternoon. Would one meal a day be appropriate if I don't get food before noon? I guess not one meal a day, but the one meal that day, rather. You know, the the eating at a certain time is a monastic only precept. It's not really something for lay people. So I don't think anybody's going to be nitpicky about if you want to adapt some level of it, but you change the timing, right? The time frame that monastics eat is a very specific monastic issue, related to support from the laity and things like that. So I don't. If you want to try to practice, eating only a certain amount of food a day or a certain number of times a day, that's fine. Whatever works, whatever works for you and your schedule. All right. Well, we've come to the end of chat. I'll give it another minute or two, see if anything pops up, and then maybe we can read suttas. I have a sutta in line, lined up and ready to go. Das asks quickly, are there any suttas or something regarding emotions or feelings? For it's something I should definitely investigate. So no, there's no like Pali word for emotions or the what we would can say feelings. Uh, Emotions are kind of like a compound of a bunch of different things. That's kind of how I've heard it described before and how I kind of view it myself. Like emotions would include mind, would include body, would include emotional aspects of mind, thoughts. So it would include a bunch of different aspects that the Buddha does, delineate and distinguish between. Samvega is an interesting term. It's not one that you see often in the suttas. And I honestly I don't have a clear definition of it in my head. Like I have to really think about it because it's not something that comes up a lot. And different people can really define it in quite different ways. It's kind of like almost like an existential crisis, kind of like a realization of the nature of reality that puts you in a like an emotional spiritual bind that you want to be released from. It's an interesting word. Lighting off fireworks. So this like Canadian Independence Day or so? Well, I'm not Independence Day; it's a Commonwealth, but Canadian like Creation Day or something like this, Visaka. I don't know. Um, Robert says, "Hi, how is Ayavada doing?" Okay, I guess. He's Samanera and ordination may come up sometime during this vasa. Yeah, as far as I can tell, he seems okay. You should ask him at Monk Chat. Without any of these feelings or emotions arising, which is great for investigation, but not very great practically. Douse, you're the reason why people think the more advanced you get, you become a robot. These emotions are not very good practically. Yeah, there's some truth to that for sure. Definitely some truth to that. But they are what they are. They're there for a reason, right? And the idea is to understand them and to make sure they don't cause any unskillfulness. All right. Let's read. With Caṅkī. So I have heard. At one time, the Buddha was wandering in the land of the Kosalans, together with a large sangha of mendicants, when he arrived at the village of the Kosalan Brahmins named Upasada. He stayed in the God's Wood of sal trees to the north of Upasada. Now at that time, the Brahmin Caṅkī was living in Upasada. I just don't have the Pali set up here. Line by line. Okay, here we go. Now at that time, the Brahmin Caṅkī was living in Upasada. It was a crown property given by King Pasenadi of Kosala, teeming with living creatures, full of hay, wood, water, and grain, a royal park endowed to the Brahmin. The Brahmins and householders of Upasada heard, it seems the ascetic Gautama, a Sakyan, gone forth from a Sakyan family, has arrived at Upasada together with a large sangha of mendicants. He is staying in the God's Wood to the north. He has this good reputation. The Blessed One is perfected, a fully awakened Buddha, accomplished in knowledge and conduct, knower, holy, knower of the world, supreme guide for those who wish to train, teacher of gods and humans, awakened and blessed. He has realized with his own insight this world with its gods, Maras, and Brahmas, this population with its ascetics and Brahmins, gods and humans, and he makes it known to others. He teaches Dhamma that's good in the beginning, good in the middle, and good in the end, meaningful and well phrased. And he reveals a spiritual practice that's entirely full and pure. It's good to see such perfected ones. Then, having departed Upasada, they formed into companies and headed north to the God's Wood. Now, at that time, the Brahmin Caṅkī had retired to the upper floor of his stilt longhouse for his midday nap. He saw the Brahmins and householders heading for the God's Wood, and he addressed his butler. My butler, why are the Brahmins and householders heading north for the God's Wood? The ascetic Gautama has arrived at Upasada, together with a large sangha of mendicants. He is staying in the God's Wood to the north. He has a good reputation. The Blessed One is perfected, a fully awakened Buddha, accomplished in knowledge and conduct, holy, knower of the world, supreme guide for those who wish to train, teacher of gods and humans, awakened and blessed. They're going to see Mr. Gautama. Well then, go to the Brahmins and householders and say to them, Sir, the Brahmin Caṅkī asks you to wait, and he will also go see the ascetic Gautama. Yes, sir, replied the butler, and did as he was asked. You know, it's such a this time in India always never ceases to amaze me. Like, how much better would the world be? Like, how much better would America be if you could be like, there's some wise people hanging out in the park not too far from me. Let me go listen to them. This is like such a blessed time to be alive. Even not even because Buddha is there, but just that cultural ethos of just wise beings being close to you that you could just go and listen to and ask questions of. It's so wonderful. The world today definitely could use such a place. Now, at that time, around 500 Brahmins from abroad were residing in Upasada on some business. Oh, a lot of people came to this area at the same time. They heard the Brahmin Caṅkī was going to see the ascetic Gautama. They approached Caṅkī and said to him, Is it really true that you are going to see the ascetic Gautama? Yes, gentlemen, it is true. Please don't. It's not appropriate for you to go see ascetic Gautama. It's appropriate that he comes to see you. So this is a very senior Brahmin, and the people are saying, no, in terms of seniority and protocol, Buddha should be seeing him, not him going to see the Buddha. You are well born on both your mother's and father's side, meaning well born means that for 7 generations previously, the Brahmins did not sleep or marry any lower caste. That's what that means. With pure descent, with irrefutable and impeccable genealogy back to the 7th. Oh, it says it right there. I should just wait. To the 7th paternal generation. It doesn't always say it though, so that's why I guess I wanted to come out. For this reason, it's not appropriate for you to go see the ascetic Gautama. It's appropriate that he comes to see you. You're rich, affluent, wealthy. You recite and remember the hymns and have mastered the 3 Vedas, together with their vocabularies, ritual, phrenology, and etymology, and testament as 5th. You know philology and grammar, and are well versed in cosmology and the marks of a great man. You're attractive, good-looking, lovely, of surpassing beauty. You are magnificent and splendid as Brahma, remarkable to behold. You are ethical, mature in ethical conduct. You're a good speaker with polished, clear, and articulate voice that express the meaning. You teach the teachers of many and teach 300 students to recite the hymns. You're honored, respected, revered, venerated, and esteemed by King Pasenadi of Kosala and the Brahmin Pokarasadi, another very famous senior Brahmin. You live in Upasada, a crown property given by King Pasenadi of Kosala, teeming with living creatures, full of hay, wood, water, and grain, a royal park endowed to the Brahmin. For all these reasons, it's not appropriate for you to go see the ascetic Gautama. It's appropriate that he comes to see you. So these Brahmins have given this Brahmin a very stellar, this is a very wise, very moral, very good person. So there's no doubting that this person is worthy of lots of praise, lots of respect. And even more so because of his response to come. That this Brahmin Caṅkī is very wise, very good wise being. Well then, gentlemen, listen to why it's appropriate for me to go see the ascetic Gautama. So after being praised in such a way, the Brahmin Caṅkī goes, now this is why it's appropriate I go. Right? That's another, if there was arrogance there or lack of humility, it would be like, yeah, exactly. The Buddha should come to me. But no, he says, and it's not appropriate for him to come to see me. He is well born on both his mother's and father's side, of pure descent with irrefutable, impeccable genealogy back to the seventh paternal generation. So they're equal there. For this reason, it's not appropriate for ascetic Gautama to come to see me. Rather, it's appropriate for me to see him. When he went forth, he abandoned abundant gold coin and bullion stored in dungeons and towers. He went forth from lay life to homelessness while still a youth, young and pristine black hair. So Caṅkī is very rich. Remember, and they praised him for that. But now Caṅkī is praising Buddha more because he gave that up. Buddha also had that, but he gave it up. He went forth from lay life to homelessness while still young, also praiseworthy. Though his mother and father wished otherwise, weeping with tearful faces, he shaved off his hair and beard, dressed in ochre robes, and went forth from the lay life to homelessness. He is attractive, good-looking, lovely, of surpassing beauty. He is magnificent and splendid as Brahma, remarkable to behold. So again, they're equal in that regard. He's ethical, possessing ethical conduct that is noble and skillful. He's a good speaker with polished, clear, and articulate voice. That's expressing the meaning. Again, ethic. So basically, Caṅkī is saying, yes, he's just like, we're equal in this. He is also this, right? He's making a case as to why it's more important that he sees the Buddha. He's a teacher of teachers. So Caṅkī is a well, I guess technically Caṅkī is somewhat of a teacher of teachers as well, but he's more so even of the Buddha. He ended sensual desire and is rid of caprice. He teaches the efficacy of deeds in action. He doesn't wish any harm on the community of Brahmins, right? So this is very important. The Buddha does not wish any harm on the Brahmins. He does not defile or denounce them. Right? He might beat them in debate, but he never really says anything bad about the Brahmins, at least as a group. He went forth from an eminent family of unbroken aristocratic lineage. He went forth from a rich, affluent, and wealthy family. People come from distant lands and distant countries to question him. Many thousands of deities have gone for refuge for life to him. He has this good reputation, and it's the same reputation as we've seen a couple times. He has the 32 marks of a great man. King Sinia Bimbisara of Magadha and his wives and children have gone for refuge for life to the ascetic Gautama. King Prasenadi of Kosala and his wives and children have gone for refuge for life to the ascetic Gautama. The Brahmin Pokarasadi and his wives and children have gone for refuge for life to the ascetic Gautama, and that's in another sutta. You can read that. The ascetic Gautama has arrived to stay in the Godswood, the north of Okpasada, and the ascetic or Brahmin who comes to stay in our village district is our guest. So even with all of that, if you had any argument, the fact that the Buddha is a guest here is reason enough for him to go to the Buddha, and should be honored and respected as such. For this reason, too, it's not appropriate for Mr. Gautama to come to see me. Rather, it's appropriate for me to go to see him. This is the extent of Mr. Gautama's praise that I have learned. But his praise is not confined to this. For the praise of Mr. Gautama is limitless. The possession of even a single one of these factors makes it inappropriate for Mr. Gautama to see me. What is trying to see where he's translating Mr. Well, it's kind of weird, but I guess it makes sense. Rather, it's appropriate for me to go see him. Well then, gentlemen, let's all go see the ascetic Gautama. Then Caṅkī, together with a large group of Brahmins, went to the Buddha and exchanged greetings with him. Hello, Ryan. When the greetings and polite conversation were over, he sat down to one side. Now at that time, the Buddha was sitting engaged in some polite conversation together with some very senior Brahmins. And the Brahmin student, Kapatika, was sitting in that assembly. He was young, tonsured, and 16 years old. He had mastered the three Vedas together with their vocabularies, ritual, phrenology, and etymology, and testament as the fifth. He knew philology and grammar, and was well versed in cosmology and the marks of a great man. While the senior Brahmins were conversing together with the Buddha, he interrupted. Then the Buddha rebuked Kapatika. Venerable Bharadvaja, don't interrupt the senior Brahmins. Wait until they finish speaking. When he had spoken, Caṅkī said to the Buddha, Mr. Gautama, don't rebuke the student Kapatika. He's a gentleman, learned, astute, and good speaker. He's capable of debating with Mr. Gautama about this. Then it occurred to the Buddha, clearly the student Kapatika will talk about the scriptural heritage of the three Vedas. That's why Brahmins put him at the front. Then Kapatika thought, when the ascetic Gautama looks at me, I'll ask him a question. Then the Buddha, knowing Kapatika's train of thought, looked at him. Then Kapatika thought, the ascetic Gautama is engaging with me. Why don't I ask him a question? Then he said, Mr. Gautama, regarding that which by the lineage of testament and by canonical authority is the ancient hymnal of the Brahmins come to the categorical conclusion. This is the only truth. All other ideas are silly. What do you say about this? Well, Bharadvaja, is there even a single one of the Brahmins who say this? I know this, I see this. This is the only truth. All other ideas are silly. No, Mr. Gautama. Well, is there even a single teacher of the Brahmins, or a teacher's teacher, or anyone back to the seventh generation of teachers who say this? I know this, I see this. This is the only truth. Other ideas are silly. No, Mr. Gautama. Oh. Yeah, I thought so, because usually I think Bhikkhu Bodhi says Master Gautama, but I don't know, maybe Bhante Sujaso is doing that thing where people don't like to use the word master anymore. I don't know, maybe that's why he switched to Mr. But anyway, well, what of the ancient seers of the Brahmins, namely Attika, Vamaka, Vamadeva, Vesamita, Yamadagi, Angirasa, Bharadvaja, Vaseta, Kassapa, and Bhagu? They were the authors and propagators of the hymns. Their hymnal was sung and propagated and compiled in ancient times. And these days, Brahmins continue to sing and chant it. Chanting what was chanted and teaching what was taught. This is the Buddha 2,700 years ago, almost 3,000 years ago, talking about hymns that were sung in ancient times. That's how ancient this Brahmanical Indian tradition, Veda tradition is. Did they even say, we know this, we see this, this is the only truth, all other ideas are silly? No, Master Gautama. So, Bharadvaja, it seems that there is not a single one of these Brahmins, not even back to the seventh generation of teachers, not even the ancient seers of the Brahmins who say, we know this, we see this, this is the only truth, all other ideas are silly. Suppose there was a line of blind men, each holding the one in front. The first one does not see, the middle one does not see, the last one does not see. And as the note here, the blind following the blind, the blind leading the blind. Yeah, interesting. In the same way, it seems to me that the Brahmin statement turns out to be quite like a line of blind men. First one does not see, the middle does not see, and the last does not see. What do you think, Bharadvaja? This being so, doesn't the Brahmin's faith turn out to be baseless? The Brahmins don't just honor this because of faith, so this is the response to the Buddha, but also because of oral transmission. And so the Buddha responds, first you relied on faith, now you speak of oral transmission. These 5 things can be seen to turn out in 2 different ways. What 5? Faith, endorsement, oral transmission, reason, train of thought, and acceptance of a view after deliberation. Even though you have full faith in something, it may be void, hollow, and false. And even if you don't have full faith in something, it may be true, real, and not otherwise. Even though you fully endorse something, something may be well transmitted, well thought out, well deliberated. It may be void, hollow, and false. And even if something is not well deliberated, it may be true and real, not otherwise. For a sensible person who is preserving truth, this is not sufficient to come to the categorical conclusion. This is the only truth. Other ideas are silly. But Master Gotama, how do you define the preservation of truth? If a person has faith, they preserve truth by saying, such is my faith. But they don't yet come to categorical conclusions. This is the only truth. Other ideas are silly. If a person has belief, or has received oral transmission, or has received reason reflection about something, or has accepted a view after contemplation, they preserve the truth by saying, such and such is view I have accepted after contemplation. So what the Buddha is saying here is you preserve the truth by denoting, this is my view based on faith, etc., etc., etc. You're not saying this is true. You're saying this is, to the best of my understanding, what I understand is truth. 2 different distinctions there. But they don't yet come to the categorical conclusion, this is the only truth. Other ideas are silly. That's how the preservation of truth is defined, Bharadvaja. I describe the preservation of truth as defined in this way. But this is not yet the awakening to the truth. That's how the preservation of truth is defined, Master Gotama. We regard the preservation of truth as defined in this way. So the Brahmin student is saying, yeah, we also preserve truth in this way. But Master Gotama, how do you define awakening to the truth? Bharadvaja, take the case of a mendicant living supported by a town or a village. A householder or their child approaches and scrutinizes them for 3 kinds of things. Things that arouse greed, things that provoke hate, and things that promote delusion. Does this venerable have any qualities that arouse greed? Such qualities that, were their mind to be overwhelmed by them, they might say that they know even though they don't know, or that they see even though they don't see, or that they might encourage others to do what is for their lasting harm and suffering. Scrutinizing them, they find this venerable has no such qualities that arouse greed. Rather, that venerable has bodily and verbal behavior like that of someone without greed. And the principle that they teach is deep, hard to see, hard to understand, peaceful, sublime, beyond the scope of logic, subtle, comprehensible to the astute. It's not easy for someone with greed to teach this. Scrutinizing them in this way, they see that they are purified of qualities that arouse greed. Next, they search for qualities that provoke hate. Does this venerable have any qualities that provoke hate? Such qualities that, were their mind to be overwhelmed by them, they might say that they know even though they don't know, or that they see even though they don't see, or that they might encourage others to do what is for their lasting harm and suffering. Scrutinizing them, they find this venerable has no such qualities that provoke hate. Rather, the venerable has bodily and verbal behavior like that of someone without hate. And the principle that they teach is deep, hard to see, hard to understand, peaceful, sublime, beyond the scope of logic, subtle, comprehensible to the astute. It's not easy for someone with hate to teach this. Scrutinizing them in this way, they see that they are purified of qualities that provoke hate. Next, they scrutinize them for qualities that promote delusion. Does this venerable have any qualities that promote delusion? Such qualities that, were their mind to be overwhelmed by them, they might say that they know even though they don't know, or that they see even though they don't see, or that they might encourage others to do what is for their lasting harm and suffering. Scrutinizing them, they find this venerable has no such qualities that promote delusion. Rather, the venerable has bodily and verbal behavior like that of someone without delusion. And the principle that they teach is deep, hard to see, hard to understand, peaceful, sublime, beyond the scope of logic, subtle, comprehensible to the astute. It's not easy for someone with delusion to teach this. Scrutinizing them in this way, they see that they are purified of qualities that promote delusion. Next, they place faith in them. When faith has arisen, they approach the teacher. They pay homage, actively listen, hear the teachings, remember the teachings, reflect on their meaning, and accept them after deliberation. Their enthusiasm springs up. They apply zeal, weigh up, and strive. Striving, they directly realize the ultimate truth and see it with penetrating wisdom. That's how the awakening to truth is defined, Bharadvaja. I describe the awakening to truth as defined in this way, but that's not yet the attainment of truth. That's how the awakening of truth to truth is defined, Mr. Gautama. I regard the awakening to truth defined in this way. But Master Gautama, how do you define the attainment of truth? By the cultivation, development, and making much of these very same things, there is the attainment of truth. That's how the attainment of truth is defined, Bharadvaja. I describe the attainment of truth as defined in this way. That's how the attainment of truth is defined, Master Gautama. I regard the attainment of truth as defined in this way. But what quality is helpful for arriving at the truth? Striving is helpful for arising at the truth. If you don't strive, you won't arrive at the truth. You arrive at the truth because you strive. That's why striving is helpful for arriving at the truth. But what quality is helpful for striving? Weighing up the teachings is helpful for striving. Zeal is helpful for weighing up the teachings. Enthusiasm is helpful for zeal. Acceptance of the teachings after deliberation is helpful for enthusiasm. Reflecting on the meaning of the teachings is helpful for accepting them after deliberation. Remembering the teachings is helpful for reflecting on their meaning. Hearing the teachings is helpful for remembering their teachings. Active listening is helpful for hearing the teachings. Paying homage is helpful for active listening. Approaching is helpful for paying homage. Faith is helpful for approaching a teacher. If you don't give rise to faith, you won't approach a teacher. You approach a teacher because you have faith. That's why faith is helpful in approaching a teacher. I've asked Master Gotama about the preservation of truth, and he has answered me. I endorse and accept this, and am satisfied with it. I've asked Master Gotama about the awakening of truth. I've endorsed and accept this. I'm satisfied. I've asked Master Gotama about the attainment of truth, and he has answered me. I endorse and accept this, and I am satisfied with it. I've asked Master Gotama about the things that are helpful for attainment of the truth, and he has answered me. I endorse and accept this, and I'm satisfied with it. Whatever I have asked Master Gotama about, he has answered me. I endorse and accept this, and am satisfied with it. Master Gotama, I used to think this. Who are these shavelings, fake ascetics, primitives, black spawn from the feet of our kinsmen, next to those who understand the teaching? The Buddha has inspired me to have love, confidence, and respect for ascetics. Excellent Master Gotama, from this day forth, may Master Gotama remember me as a lay follower who has gone for refuge for life. All right. So that was quite a nice sutta. Okay. So we do have some questions. Visakha asked about modesty. Modesty in speech and dress. Tao says, modesty sounds interesting. Never liked it, at least in speech, as I always associated with lying, aka, I am not very good, even if one were to know he is good. That's a whole other aspect. That's an interesting. In America, like in some places, like in the South, there's this kind of polite speech that, I mean, it's not necessarily lying per se, but it's not straightforward. So I'm sure there's similar cultures in different parts of the world that have a kind of speech like that. All right, so modesty. Obviously, what is modest in terms of like human culture is, there's possibly some things that might be universal, some few things, but mostly each culture has kind of ideas of how you should act modestly. So, modesty depends on the culture that you're in. Depends on the situation that you're in. And, it has to do also with kind of like the social contract, right? In America today, at least, there's no social contract. It's fallen apart. Modesty and shame and all these things are just gone. People just do whatever they want to do. And the social cohesion is not there. So all these things like modesty and shame and blame and stuff are, to keep the social cohesion, to keep a community together. Even you can look at this even in the community of monastics. Someone who is shameless, right? Somebody who is immodest can cause a lot of harm in a monastic community. And the monastics have to come together as a group and, tell them to shape up or ship out. So these are things related to society. Even so many of the monks' rules have to do with modesty. Because monks ride in in a cart, and the local people say, "Oh, these monks ride like rich lay people," right? Like that's not modest. So then the rule comes down: well, monks can't ride in a vehicle. Why are monks sleeping on such fancy beds, high in beds? Rule comes down: shouldn't be sleeping on high and fancy beds. That's not modest. You're supposed to be an ascetic. And so modesty and such has a lot to do with the culture that you're in. And somebody who enjoys unity and somebody who wants to uphold the society will more likely want to be modest and in line with the society. And then there's always those who wanted to check out of society. It's kind of pretty normal human activity. I think that's probably all I have to say about that for now, anyway. Maybe something will pop in, but we'll see. If there's time, could you please possibly explain what is meant by the mind in DHP Dhammapada 37? I don't know if I know the number. Are you talking about the section on the mind towards the end of the Dhammapada? Are you talking about the 37th verse? Yeah, so okay, so you're talking about the section there. So Chittavagga, I don't have the verses. I don't know if I can. I don't know the Dhammapada by numbers, so I can't really just know exactly what verse that is off the top of my head. But when it comes to the mind in Buddhism, the Buddha talks about the mind in using three Pali words: mano, chitta, vijnana. Mano is considered to be the intellectual or rational aspect of mind. Chitta is considered to be the emotional aspect of mind, and vijnana is consciousness. So that's the mind. And so in this Dhammapada, when they're talking about the mind, that's what they're talking about. Keep in mind also that this is not a materialistic view. The mind is not equaling to the brain. You could think of the brain as kind of like the physical sense base of the mind. All right. Well, Okay, so this dwelling in the cave of the heart, the mind without form wanders far and alone. Those who subdue the mind are liberated from the bond of Mara. I think this is talking about a mind that is untrained, unrestrained, right? No sense restraint, no mind restraint, just allowing your mind to indulge in whatever arises in the mind. The mind travels far, meaning that the mind is going across the world, across the universe, into fantasies and stories, and the mind goes everywhere. The body stays in one place. Why is the mind hiding in a cave? The cave of the heart. I don't, that's a good question. I mean, these are like poetic verses, right? So this is there could be, when it comes to poetic verses, it doesn't necessarily equate exactly to um, like a sutta verse or a specific thing like that. It also could mean that, like, getting lost in emotions, dwelling in the cave of the heart, getting lost in emotions. It's poetry. Hello, me, myself. If we get liberated, do we disappear forever? The word disappear does not um, apply to an awakened being who has been fully extinguished. Appear, disappear, exist, not exist, all of these are conventional terms. None of that applies. And something really good will happen. You'll be free from suffering in the samsaric cycle. There's nothing better in existence than that. All right. Why don't we do a little bit of meditation, like, 15 minutes or so, since we went late with questions and the sutta, and then we can close out for the night. No guided, since it's only a short meditation. We'll just sit quiet together. right? As you slowly come out of the meditation, we can read some Dhammapada verses. Heedfulness. Heedfulness is the path to the deathless. Heedlessness is the path to death. The heedful die not. The heedless are as if dead already. Clearly understanding this excellence of heedfulness, the wise exult therein and enjoy the resort of the noble ones. The wise ones, ever meditative and steadfastly preserving, alone experience nibbana, the incomparable freedom from bondage. Ever grows the glory of him who is energetic, mindful, and pure in conduct, discerning and self-controlled, righteous, and heedful. By effort and heedfulness, discipline and self-mastery, let the wise one make for himself an island which no flood can overcome. The foolish and ignorant indulge in heedlessness, but the wise one keeps his heedfulness as his best treasure. Do not give way to heedlessness. Do not indulge in sensual pleasures. Only the heedful and the meditative attain great happiness. Just as one upon the summit of a mountain beholds the groundlings, even so when the wise man casts away heedlessness by heedfulness and ascends the higher tower of wisdom, this sorrowless sage beholds the sorrowing and foolish multitude. Heedful among the heedless, wide awake among the sleepy, the wise man advances like a swift horse, leaving behind a weak jade. By heedfulness did Indra become the overlord of the gods. Heedfulness is ever praised, and heedlessness is ever despised. The monk who delights in heedfulness and looks with fear at heedlessness advances like fire, burning all the fetters, small and large. The monk who delights in heedfulness and looks with fear at heedlessness will not fall. He is close to Nibbana. All right, friends. If you are joining for the first time and you'd like to learn more about myself, Bhante Jarasara, and the organization I'm building, Maggasekha, you can find out all kinds of information, social media links, YouTube, when I post articles, Zoom retreats, etc., etc. You can find all that information on the website, which might be getting a bit of an overhaul soon. I have a friend in Colorado who has offered to help me with my website. So we'll see how that goes in the near future. But for now, if you are interested in Maggasekha and learning more and keeping abreast of all my travels and all of the things, the various Dhamma activities I offer, you can go to the website listed, Maggasekha.org, Maggasekha.org. Let's share merit. Dukkha patta chani dukkha, bhaya patta chani bhaya, sokha patta chani sokha, hantu sabbe pipaniyo, etavata chamehi sampatang punya sampadang, sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti settiya, akasatta chabumata deva naga mahiddika punyang tang anumoditva, charang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit of ours for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddhist dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, friends. Well, thank you for joining me for another Dhammapalooza. We have come to the end. Sukhi Hotu, may you be happy and at ease. Practice well and be well. And may you have a spiritually successful and peaceful practice. Until we meet again, have a good week.